Hello together.
Hello. Hello, Robert.
Hi, Klaus. So, let's start with episode 47. And we have an interesting topic today.
Yes, our topic today is some old stuff, some nerdy stuff. It's about photometric formats. I guess many of you will have some experience with this, or maybe not.
After this episode, you will have. Yeah.
And yes, it is the basic of that what we are doing. That is that's the essential thing of a light calculation program. We need photometric data for doing our calculations. And for that, we are using several formats, different formats, reading in. And today we want to talk a little bit about this. And I guess we will start with some
presentation,
with a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
And we will talk a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff to show today, so it will be quite packed. What we want to show you, and it's really fundamental. So it's really the essence of what we're doing. And this starts with this first slide. Yeah, it's about photometrics, about photometrical file formats also, and how to describe digitally photometrical distribution curves, and what it's about. So the first really basic thing is to understand that a photometric is not the same as Lumina. It's often you call an Lumina an Oilumdat or vice versa. Send me the Oilumdat file of a Lumina, then you get something. Of course, it's connected and quite close connected. But if we're talking about photometrics, we're talking about this three-dimensional little red net around the Lumina. This is the light distribution, the light exposure. This is the direction where the light is going to. And and this is something which is expressed in a photometrical data file, for example, Oilumdat. Yeah, and in Oilumdat we have the extra that we will have also the geometry shape, the basic geometry shape in just length, width, and height inside an Oilumdat file. So it could be a really simple Lumina file if it's just one output, and if it's just is an length with height geometry object. So it's important.
Yeah, it's also a little bit to understand that the luminar, the geometry of inside of a scene, when you take a look into the scene, the geometry of the luminar and the photometric is the same in a different way. So the geometry of a luminar produces the photometric, and the photometric is the stored measured data that we are using for the calculations. Many other programs, for example, many renderer programs don't making that. There you will have a difference. So you have an instance of the geometry, and you will have an instance of something which is typically called light. And this may have lead into something to various problems sometimes. And so this is a specific thing of a light calculation program, that it handles photometries as an element of a special kind of geometry, which we call typically luminary. And a luminaire can have more than one photometry.
Yeah, this is what we see here on the right side. There's multiple here. We have 4 Oilumdat files connected to one Lumina. The Lumina can contain more than one light output, more than one photometrical file, and even more complicated. Each of these outputs here can also have different variations and different Oilumdat files stored in the GLDF as variants. So that's why it's important also to understand the difference between a Lumina data file, like it is on GLDF or on ROLF, and a photometrical file like Oilumdat or IES. It's really important that this is different things, but of course it's deeply connected. Of course, the most important assets inside a GLDF file is of course the photometrical file, like an Oilumdat. So this is connected.
Yes. On the lowest level of a GLDF file, it will include only a photometric file. And from that point, it is useful for a light calculation
Yeah. Also, the geometry, of course, is really important also for lights. As Klaus says, it's really about the position and also the exposure and the orientation. Everything is really important for the light. So the light output area is also important. We will see later in another example. But if you talk about photometric, it's what we see here in this red net-like 3D object. Yeah, and this is what we're talking about today, how to describe this digitally. Yeah. Okay, we're going to the next slide. Yeah, here we have also, again, fundamental stuff. So there's an European standard, the 13032-1, quite old. There's older versions of 2003. It's just the one I have on my hard drive. And this standard, lighting applications, measurement and presentations of photometrical data of lamps and luminaires, part 1, measurement and file format. It's the fundamental, let's say, description of the photometrical file, of the photometric import. And here we have an introducing of this C-plane file. That's why I put this picture here on. C-plane means we have here this small cube in the middle is the luminaire, and we have here a bunch of planes around this luminaire and around the middle line from top to down in a way. And here we have all the C-planes, and the C-planes are described or labeled with their angle out of the 0 here down to 360, close to this, or 359. And these are C-planes, and on each of the C-planes you have the gamma angles. The gamma angles are also starting from 0 and raising up to 180, and for each gamma angle on each C-plane you have an intensity of the light. And this is where we can have a three-dimensional description of the light distribution in just in numbers. And this is organized in the Oilem file. So
the C-plane system, is that what we are typically using in the technical lighting, and that's what we are normally doing in lighting calculation. There are also existing A and a B system. I guess the B system is sometimes used for car floodlights,
front lights,
front lights and not floodlights. And the C-plane is similar, like you cut a cake from the top down. That is what we call a C-plane.
Yeah. The B planes are evaluating from the front, so up and down, and not around the center, the up-down center. And this works the same way. It's also possible. There are also, I guess, also even in this standard, you have the formulas how to transform from B to C or from A to C and so on. So this is just math. It's possible to convert, but in general, the C-plane system is the one which we are using the most by far. And B-plane is something exotic. And A-plane, I have to say, I've never really seen an A-plane system. And also the data formats can work also with different systems sometimes. So it's just a matter of description. Yeah, and here on the right side, we see an gonio-photometer and mirror photogoniometer. There are a lot of different kind of measurement apparaturas, tools to measure this. This means this luminaire here is just traveling around this arm, around this mirror, and the mirror is also rotating. The arm is rotating so that we have each single angle on each single plane with one measurement. So, and this is how these files are getting created by machines like this. Then we have a measurement. Takes also a while till we have each single angle. And the measuring time is also depending on how accurate you want to have these angles. And that's why it's also free how many of the angles and how many of the planes you are using in the files. There are some, let's say, some kind of standards, but not really written down. But yeah, it's also about the accuracy of the distribution curve. We will see an example.
That's also here we must say that what we are finally using in our program, so the final IES or Oilem files, then it is not directly the measured data. It is also a little bit of prepared data. So also we recommend you not to use direct measurement data. So for example, many luminaires you have variances in your measurements typically, but to make, for example, the symmetrization of a luminaire, it may be really helpful for the planning and for the calculation program that you have a series symmetrized files is better than any raw measurement data as it dropped out from the photometer.
Yeah, there's a difference of what is measured and what is going to you as a designer in Relux. It's not so dense mostly, and also symmetricalized, and also there's a bit of arrow light or some spin light in the corners, and
sometimes it's so hard for the software then to. The software can normally also work with all the with all the kind of files, but for many reasons, the symmetrization is helpful to identify the planes, which are the aiming planes, the symmetrical planes, and in which direction a luminaire should be aimed or adjusted. So especially for street lighting or for flood lighting or something like that. And then it is very helpful if the file is symmetrized, or it may lead into problems if it is not symmetrized.
Yeah. Okay, here we can see an really typical old school LDC. So a light distribution, luminous intensity distribution curve to be correct, but LDC. And here you can see in 2D what we try to express in Relux in 3D, or what we also in reality using in 3D. And here we have two of these planes. So this is the C0, so the C0 plane, and the 180 plane. So this is across the lumina and cut off the lumina. And there we have all the gamma angles out of this one plane expressed here in red. And the blue friend is exactly in opposite in 90 degrees to this other plane. And so we have two planes which express the 3D object of the light distribution. And in skilled lighting designer can see here a lot in this diagram. They can see how much is going to downwards, so how many light is going down, how many light is going up. You can try to see how big or how many area you have, how many volume in 3D you would have in this direction, and also the distribution itself. So the upper part is a bit more wide, but so kind of being wide, and the lower part is just Lambertian and smaller, and in both planes quite the same. So it's quite not almost, it's a bit of round. So it's just something like this you can see. And this complete diagram is written down in an Olmert file. So this is a visual expression of an Olmert file, and this Olmert file you can see here. Olmert file is let's say the most important European-based lightning file format by far. So it's the standard in Europe, not worldwide. Worldwide, I have to say IES is also the second important or the most important outside Europe. But Olmert is and they're not. We will see in some samples. It's close. And the Olmert file is a normal text file. You can open any Olmert file with a simple text editor, with Word, with the editor in Windows, or here's, I guess, it's Notepad++, also a nice text viewer. And the information on this is stored in lines. So each line has a particular meaning, and it's also important to keep the line numbers to the correct information. It's also something quite old school in IT that you really need to keep the line numbers to the accurate look. If you're just putting here one line in, it will not be interpreted anymore in Relux, for example. So, but it's not your issue most of the time. But here you can see a lot of this information, and here you can also change things, check out things, and this is where I want to show you an Excel sheet where I have an Olmert file just expressed maybe a bit with more information that you can see what is going on. Here we have the oilum file. It's the same one we have seen in the first page with the 3D object in Relux, and which is also the same of this 2D diagram. And here we have all the information of the oilum file, and here I have let's say the information in these lines. So starting by company name, here we have some fundamentals about the distribution, so how many planes, how many angles, and what is the distance between angles and planes, and also about the symmetry. And this information is here in this tiny area, the most fundamental stuff about let's say the coordinate system and the planes and the numbers is set. Then we have here a bit of the identification of this photometry. Here we have the geometry of the lumina. It's just this elements here. This is the geometry in the oilum file. And here we have the light output area, the illuminated surface, which is expressed here. And here we have some efficiencies. The direct part is here, and here we have the lamps. Oilum has to have at least one lamp, but it can have a lot of more lamps, and then just this part here is repeating. And here you have also something like luminous flux, quite important, but also color temperature, color rendering, and power consumption. So for lighting design, quite important values, which you can see here, and which you can also change here, for example, and which is then used in Relux, for example. Here we have in part, which is a bit of really old school from the times of light output ratio, manual calculations. Here you can see the direct ratios, so how many light and efficiency goes to the usage area of the room. And here we have different case. Case is an factor for, let's say, the geometry part of the room, so how well the room is shaped for lights. So and this is here in this K value. K is also quite easy to calculate, and here you can see the direct ratios. This is quite helpful if you want to calculate manually the illumination levels, but it's not used anymore, I guess. So it's really old school. And in the past we have also on data sheets this values for lumina. Okay, and then we have each single C-plane expressed with their angle. So if it's 0 or 90 or whatever. And here we have all the angles on each C-plane. And here we have then the intensities, the luminous intensities. But here in oilum we have it also connected to the luminous flux. So this is candela per kilolumen, so per 1000 lumen. So this is normalized to lumen, the candela, the intensities, which has the effect that you can change the luminous flux, and also the intensities are interpreting, or not, they are sticking the same, and then you have just more light output in Relux. So the illuminance is raising with the luminous flux on the lamp. And we will see in IES it's not the same way. Then it's really hard stored just the intensity levels of the measurement and not normalized. That's also why we have in diagrams, for example, this values here is not intensity. This is intensity per kilolume. This is also something you have seen potentially in, I can show it here in this diagram. This lines here in the polar diagram is candela per kilolume. This means you need here to multiply this 100 here by the lumens.
7 in our
divided
case,
by
here we have
7,000 divided by 1000.
So you have to multiply.
So we have 7 kilolumens.
But this is more useful from the context of a planning, from a view for planning. And there, especially in the past, we have variable lamps, so which have different luminous flux, and so it is just one value you have to change for changing the lights. The result.
What I have here doing is here's just a list of the intensities, and I copy the intensities from the oilum file in this table style that we can have also the values more identical by a table, and I just putting this is in native Excel feature to draw your to draw diagrams. So it's a diagram Excel feature, and you can put this table just in this diagrams, and then you can see the LDC also. It's also possible here to switch to a Cartesian diagram like this, and then you have also, this is also in sometimes in older times used for expressing LDCs. This Cartesian is also still in ReluxDesktop. It's a property of the LDC. You can switch also to Cartesian coordinate systems, but I'm jumping back to polar because this is more used today. This polar diagrams, and yeah, and you can also change here the planes if you like. So from 0 to 15 to 30, and then you have here at least a half of it changed, or here both 90, then have both 90. Yeah. So this is nice to play in Excel, but not really for let's say for daily life with LDCs, but it's good for education reasons and also to get an understanding of the file format. It's not really common for lighting designers to step so deep into these numbers here. But it's interesting to understand what is inside this file. And besides this Excel sheet, of course, there are tons of interesting tools, like here, for example, the Relux Lum. This is a tool you found in the root directory
of our installation folder. Yeah. You will still find the executable reluxlum.exe, and you can still start it and use it.
Yeah, but it's not so prominent anymore in the stats category and not linked. This is an older application, but still works on most of the systems, not on all the systems, because it's not really maintained anymore.
Yes, it works on all systems, but maybe you need to install some Microsoft components manually, then it will work.
Okay, good. And you can use it to just to display the LDCs. You have also the table of LDCs. You can also copy paste between here and Excel. You have also all the lamps in it, and all the, let's say, the head parameters, the geometry, the identification, and you can also change anything. You can go into here and overwrite the name of the luminaire. You can also change here, not just in Excel, directly here also the values, and you will see it in the diagram. So this is a good editor or a starting point of editing of LDCs, including something like efficiency correction. We can change here the efficiency. This and then you can also change all the intensities by changing this ratio, this output ratio of the LDC, and you can also rotate the LDC. So just to demonstrate, we can here rotate this friend by 45 degrees, and then you will have a rotated luminaire. You can store it, and then you have a rotated luminaire. Makes sometimes sense if you have a bad or not working LDC, and if you can correct this just with a rotation. So, okay, back. And this is the Relux one, and we have also one which I personally really like. This is called the Qlum Edit. This is an free, I guess, open source tool, so it's really free for everything, for everybody. Created from a Polish guy, which used Relux Lum as a base, and extended this with a bit of more modern technology. But it's also not really maintained anymore. So it's also old, but it's quite useful, and you can see all the information here nicely described, not just in a plain text file. And you can also change everything, calculate a bit of the efficiency. You can add more lamps. You can change the values of lamps, utilization factors, even in calculation of the utilization factors according to your intensities. The intensity table also with copy-paste functions, and also the diagram, of course. And nice thing I really like, you can also export this as an IES file, or get a nice report in HTML, and the picture as PNG if you need something like this. And again, free of charge, nice tool, just download, use it. It's fast, lightweight, and yeah, it's in my favor. I normally use this and not the Excel stuff. Yeah, so this is, I guess, enough for OilumDAT right now. So, as you see, it's a lot, but handleable. Last thing on OilumDAT. OilumDAT was invented by Professor Axel Stockmar in 1990. And he's still active, but he's quite old. And yeah, it's used in pioneer in calculation of light in general. And he has invented OilumDAT and has on a conference and paper with this OilumDAT description. And that's all. And there's now a Wikipedia entry. And that's all. There's no standard. There's no CEN, no ISO, no CIE. There's nothing. It's the proceedings of this conference and Wikipedia. Everything you need to establish an industry standard photometric file format. So,
it is, and it's still the same as it is in 99. Some few points has been updated. So, for example, in the beginning, the number of lamps was limited to 5. But now you can also use 50 lamps or something like this. Also, the line length, for example, from the names or something are limited, and this is updated to modern versions.
Yeah. So let's jump from OilumDAT in the next most common used file format is IES. IES, usually we call it in Europe IES or IES file, but IES is a huge organization in the States dealing with light and lighting. But this is also standardized. There's a standard, an US American standard from the ANSI. ANSI IES, they're doing standards together. The LM63, 19 is the year. There's a newer version. It's not the latest one, and I guess I'm not quite sure. And this is the IES file format. It's similar. It's also C plane orientated. Potentially, there's also the option to store it in B plane if you describe it. I'm not sure.
It's both. It's also all three. You have also A, B,
okay.
A, B, and C.
Just need to describe somewhere. And then you have also a list of C planes. Here are C planes. Here are the gamma angles, and then you have just line by line the angles on the C planes described. You have in the top area. You have also a bit of description. Some metadata. Here it's a bad sample. There's usually more in it. And a big difference, or there are two big differences. One difference is that the geometry is not there. In OilumDAT, you have at least length with height of the geometry of the lumina itself. In IES, you have just the light output area, which is the most interesting one for lighting calculations, including glaring, UGR, lumina intensities, and so on, and the luminance. This is down to or based on the area here, but not the geometry of the lumina. This is not existing in the IES file, and also you have another kind. You have not this dependency on the lumens on the luminous flux. This is really just candela. So straightforward candela values, and this is why you cannot change, or you can change the luminous flux, but you will just end up with another efficiency and not with another illuminance levels in ReluxDesktop by changing this. You need really to touch the single values if you want to change the illuminance values, the outputs. There are also tons of older, not tons, there are at least 3, there are more than 3, but let's say 3 semi-common formats which were invented. There's one CEN file format for photometrics. It's in the same standard where we have the fundamentals of the C-plane system and of measurements and so on. This is also in the 13.032-1 described. Not really used. It's really exotic. There is less samples in the market. There's also less applications who can understand this file format. So it's not really in usage. Also the CIE format, it's close to the CEN format. There's also the same identifiers, but also the CIE format is also not in operation. It's too exotic, and also the most used of these three formats is the ZIP-C TM14. This file format for photometrics was used in UK a lot. And it has also some, let's say, some interesting extensions. You have some more values on it. You have also some blurring tables in addition to the intensities. And this was used a lot in UK, but not today anymore. So it's also old, and yeah, it's not in place anymore, even in UK. But it was used, let's say, 20, 30 years ago. A lot of manufacturers has also created this TM14 files. Yeah.
And what we can say about all these formats, OilumDat and IES and also these are all files which are based on a simple text file. And the parser has to read the specific lines and structure of the files. In the case of the OilumDat, each line includes one single value, for example. In IES and these other formats, it's a little bit different. And then we have some new stuff.
Format, yeah.
Some new format. They are based on a more modern way for as input file. They are using XML as a file format, which has
lots of benefits.
It's some benefits, yes.
Yeah, it's just more structured. Yeah, you can also read it as ASCII, so it's also just a text file. You can also.
It has some advantages to expand the file or change something.
Yeah.
Also, you can use special parsers for it. That's correct.
Yeah. So these are let's say the two modern ways to describe photometrics. One is this one here, the ATLAS001. This is an photometrical file format created by Ian Ashton, and lighting expert in Canada, in America, and he has died, sadly. But he created this file format based on IES. So it's let's say the philosophy of an IES file, but in a new shell with XML. XML has the benefit that you can tag, that you can identify what is not the line is telling what it's in. It's this in brackets defined properties which are defined the value. So it's more structurized, and you can also make hierarchies and so on. So, and this is more modern, and also Ian put a lot of more features in it. So multiple outputs, for example, also spectrum information of the measurement, which is also really, really good to extend this spectral description. Yeah, and a lot of more measurement data from the laboratory. So really interesting new format. He tries to standardize this at ANSI IES and also in the CIE, also in Europe. He tries to standardize this, but he never found a common ground in terms of copyright with these agencies. Because if you're going to standardize what you have, then it's not your ownership anymore. Then it's the ownership of the standardization body worldwide, and Ian was not want to have it in ownership of standardization. So Ian created created an association, and the association name is ATLA. It's not a really active association, but the association was publishing this structure, this data format, and openly. Everybody can use it, download this, and this is open available for everybody. So this is a way to publish for him to give it to the world, and with not any restrictions, open source. And what we see here on the right side, this is the CIE TC299. This is in Division 2 CIE expert group, working group. And this group is creating a new XML-based file format for photometrics. At the moment, it's Yeah, it's a couple of months active right now. There's also a draft already, but not public. And in this group, you have 2 colleagues from Relux. You have Dialogues in it. You have a lot of measurement companies in it, also worldwide. So this is a great expert group, and we're trying to create the next data format based on XML with more features. But just photometrics. There's also a clear border to something like GLDF, so it should not describe Illumina. It should describe photometrical, but also with spectrum, with more information on the measurement and so on. And this is at the moment work in progress. It will take, I guess, a year or 2 before it will be publicated, and then maybe not it's going to replace Olmdat and IES files because it's more advanced. It's in the decision of the manufacturers to generate this, or to the laboratories to create this, and also of course to lighting applications like Relux to adapt this. And for Relux we can say, yeah, it's mostly we adapt everything which is in use. So it's also easy for us to go through this more modern stuff as to read the old stuff. So the chance is high that it could be applied, but it's not decided. It needs to be living. So just in standard is not enough to get applied. So it needs to be practice on it. Okay, so this was the future, the maybe future of this. Maybe we stick to Olmdat till we go to retirement. Maybe it's not wrong. It's working. It's primitive. That's why it's great that it works. It's long time in place. Maybe it stays forever.
I guess the most interesting thing is when we start more to calculating with
near field.
Not the spectrums. with spectrums.
Yeah.
Yes, with near field it's a little bit something different. The next it's also an interesting point for the future. But
what you want to show you is an tool. We can also now end the presentation. What you want to show you in addition is a tool called Relux Analyze. This is a tool which we sell. It's nothing for free. This is a tool for mass creation of these LDC diagrams. Here you can have complete folders with thousands of LDCs, and you can here set what you want to have in visuals. You can change colors, informations, coordinate systems, and so on. And then you can go into a mass production of JPEGs, PNGs, PDFs, whatever. There's tons of different options. It's great for manufacturers, for data sheets, web pages, PIM systems, catalogs. And here you have also isolux diagrams of the LDCs. You can set a lot, and also sensors. Also sensors are possible to visualize if you have sensor data. It's more for manufacturers. It's not for individual lighting designers. If you are a lighting designer, it's more easy to jump into ReluxDesktop with the files, or use QLum or ReluxLum or something like this to get hands on this stuff. But if you have tons of this data and you want to express it in a batch, then you can have tools like this. And the really last thing I want to show you is if you have ReluxDesktop, and if you have an Olmdat file with multiple lamps, I want just to show you what happens. I have here an Olmdat file with a lot of lamps you can see here, and in ReluxDesktop you need to choose one of the lamps in this file. And if you have placed this file and you want to change your mind on the lamps, you click here to select config, or right-click select config, and then you can switch to another lamp. And some manufacturers misuse these lamps for dimming curves in a way, and then you can switch here the lamp output power or color temperature or whatever. Just a short add, which fits quite well to Olmdat files. Good, and that's all from us, and we can go into questions. Oh, we have a lot of questions. We will not getting down. We have, let's say, 5 minutes. Yeah, first question is, what is the equivalent European photometric standard to the American LM79? So I need to remember what is LM79. Do you have a clue what is LE79?
Yes.
So now I need my library of American standards, which I have on my hard drive.
But if it is still the IES, so the
No,
thing
this
is
63.
okay, 60.
It's also not. No, sorry, not familiar and not. You just need to name what it is and the title of this, and then we can try to guess what it is. Next question. I would like to illustrate absolute photometry and relatively photometry and how they are presented in Relux.
Yes, here at that point, you must first realize that the relative photometry, that the values are stored as relative values, candela per lumen. But this is not absolute or relative photometry. Absolute or relative photometry is in the classical way, that files are related to the nominal flux of the lamp you can bought in the shops. So you are normally going to buy a luminaire and a lamp, and you combine both together. And for that, you have a relation between the measurement, which is made with any measured lamp, and then the values are set to candela per kilolumen. And then for the calculation, you are multiplying these values with the nominal flux of which is documented by the lamp, by Osram, Philips, or what else. And this may change for this. And for that, you will have then something which we call the law, the light output ratio, which is a specific factor. Mm-hmm. And absolute photometry, you will have when you have fixed light sources, fixed LEDs inside. So you don't have a real nominal luminous flux of the lamp any longer. And for that reason, you make the measurements with the luminaires and set it to the relation to the luminous flux of the luminaire. And by that, in the mathematical sense, you will have an efficiency of 100. So the complete flux goes out of the luminaire. And then we are talking for absolute photometry. Mm-hmm. And in Relux, if the manufacturer can mark this in the database, then you will have in the print output a line which was printed absolute photometry. You will also see in some cases that you will have a luminous efficiency of 100 or 100%. Even if somebody creates without these things an oilum and you have this 100%, then you will see, oh, I have a luminaire with 100% luminous with a law from 100. It's a little bit. This was a little bit this problem with the name efficiency in the past, and yes.
In short, absolute means you have an light output ratio of 0 of 1, exactly 100%. So lamp and luminaire has the same luminous flux, and in relative you have a difference between lamp and luminaire luminous flux, and this means you have an light efficiency ratio.
Yes, and also it was in the past, especially with some of the T6 lamps, it was realistic that you have a law which is higher than 1. This was related to the temperature, because the lamp in the standard temperature of about approximately 20 degrees has a lower output than as it was when you build it inside of the lamp, where we will have a higher temperature around the lamp, then you will have a higher output. And for that reason, you have sometimes old luminaires which have a light output ratio of 106%. But looks crazy, but everything is correct.
Okay, we have an idea what is the LM79. This is industrial standard for testing, measurement, and performance of solid-state lighting, so LED products and OLED fixtures. I don't know and measuring, and so measuring it's the 130.32 standard in Europe for measuring luminaires, including LEDs. But not really in performance. I do not know on European level in performance. There's kind of European laws for energy efficiency, but it's not really performance. There's also not in this kind of values which you have in, if it's the standard which I have in mind, you have also some kind of let's say, some criteria or some codes. The photometrical code, for example, was, if I remember correctly, in this. It's not existing in this way. There's not any similar things in standards, in European standards. Any ideas of method for creating changeable beam and gobo photometrical files?
Yeah,
gobo, it's not possible because we have just one point of light output. So it's not, you cannot making an gobo into it, which means you have an display of a picture somewhere else. This is more complex. It's not to express in a photometrical file.
Yeah,
changeable beam should be possible, because changeable beam. Yeah, okay.
You have snapshots. You have the possibility, for example, in GLDF or something like that. Then you can steps. But at the moment, that what we can describe in a standard IES or OILUM file in one photometrical file is one snapshot of one cone, for example.
Yeah. You can put a lot of cones into a GLDF file.
You can put multiple changeable LDCs in it. Another interesting point is to have a mathematical.
To have a parameter into these files.
To have a parameter into the file, so that it will not longer be a measured LDC file. It will be a functional file that is described by the mathematical function, and then this is an interesting point. But at the moment, this is not existing.
Mathematically possible, could be imagined, but it needs to putting down into a file format, which is not existing at the moment, but could be possible. Okay, we need to close this episode. There are some questions more. Thanks for these questions. Would be interesting, but we have not more time today. The last thing I need to do is to point you to the next episode 48, which happens on the 24th of July, so in a month, and it's about furnitures and Pcon. You will see a lot of more options to work with furnitures in high quality. We will show you in the next episode.
One point of one of you are routing a lot of specific questions about the difference and what happens, and also comparison with sometimes with Relux. I recommend you to send this to our support mail, and then we will give you answers in details.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Thanks much for being with us. See you next month, and have a nice day.
Okay. Bye.